Ow! Greetings, YouTube. This is DecKrash, better known as Brandon, and it's time for another Defiance review. Alright, sorry this one came in so late, and yes, I know I skipped over another week. I'm sorry, there's a lot of things that have been going on. Fortunately, as you've seen, I've been doing more videos, and that means I have a little bit more time on my hands, at least currently. So, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. The most recent two episodes are Episode 6, Brothers in Arms, and Episode 7, Goodbye Blue Sky. Now, seeing how, it's not that my memory is terribly fuzzy about Brothers in Arms, it's just that this particular description on Wikipedia gives probably the best overview of the episodes. And I think I'll just read the overview and talk about it, and do the same for Episode 7. So, moving right along. Brothers in Arms. A human bounty hunter chases a Castathan through the Defiance marketplace. The Castathan drops a locket which explodes, knocking him and the bounty hunter to the ground and injuring several other people. Nolan arrests the Castathan, and the bounty hunter turns out to be his friend and former comrade in arms, Eddie. LaSalle identifies the Castathan as Paul Mattis, a notorious war criminal. Doc Ewell, examines Mattis, who makes a vague threat to reveal details of her involvement in the Pale Wars unless she helps him escape. Nolan refuses to release Mattis to Eddie, but pays him off. Eddie meets Kenya and pays for her services, but she is unable to go through with the transaction. This makes her question her relationship with Nolan. Amanda attempts to negotiate extradition of Mattis with the New Earth Republic representative, with whom she has something of a past. He tells her the Earth Republic will tear Defiance apart to get Mattis. Quentin McCauley examines the book and artifacts left by his brother. Nikki Riordan expresses interest in his findings. Rafe advises Quentin to destroy the book and artifact. Quentin attempts to do so, but has second thoughts after a vision of his brother Luke. Mattis escapes using an explosive powder dropped through the cell window by an unknown benefactor. Nolan suspects Eddie. Eddie convinces Nolan that he was not involved, and they join forces to find Mattis. Meanwhile, Mattis forces Daytak to assist in his escape. Daytak drives him out of Defiance, but they are intercepted and stopped by the law keepers and Eddie. Irissa and LaSalle return to Defiance with Daytak. Eddie and Nolan argue over Mattis. Nolan realizes that Mattis is wanted for his technical skills and not for his war crimes, and kills him. Eddie, furious, reveals that there's a bounty for Nolan and attempts to take him in. However, when the Earth representative and troops arrive, Eddie takes the blame for Mattis' death and is arrested, telling Nolan he has a daughter to raise. Birch breaks into Macaulay's house looking for the artifact. He and Quentin struggle, and Quentin kills him. Egged by another vision of Luke, and disposes the body in the mine. Kenya ends her relationship with Nolan. As Eddie is transported by the Earth Republic forces, he removes another package of explosive powder from his boot, implying that he had helped Mattis escape and is about to do so himself. Alright, well, this episode, now that my memory has been jogged, it was quite an interesting one with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of plot reveals. Now, pretty much it goes exactly as I had talked about. When you have Eddie, who's supposedly a friend of Nolan's, who worked with him during the Pale Wars, trying to get this criminal Paul Mattis, who is a really sick little something. As the story progresses, you learn just how sick he is, and he's trying to just get him extradited to the Earth Republic, and they don't reveal, of course, what happens until the end, when the Earth Republic says, "Well, we didn't want him because he was a war criminal. We wanted him because he's so good at inventing weapons." Because it looks like some sort of war is on the horizon again, and so that just leaves you. This episode just leaves you thinking less and less and less about the Earth Republic. Like, they must be just some crazy fearmongers. But then again, I guess you got to kind of look at things from their perspective. I mean, the Earth was, we were this race of aliens who were looking for a home basically begged us to take them in, and we were so terrified of them that we did it very slowly, and then tensions rose until it just erupted into outright war. And to this day, no one knows why the arcs fell. And now the Earth isn't even the Earth anymore. So, yeah, that would leave humans a little bit jumpy, I guess you could say. Now, we get some interesting plot developments and character developments in the realm of Nolan. Excuse me, in the realm of Nolan and oh, what was her name again? Amanda, who's the sister of the mayor. And Amanda just can't go through with like Eddie's advances to her, even though she is basically a prostitute, and it does make her question about her relationship with Nolan. You have the scene where Amanda actually is talking with her sister, and her sister is telling her, you may just be in love with Nolan. There's no shame in that, but I guess she figures it's not good for her job, so in the end she breaks it off with Nolan. And also interestingly enough, you have LaSalle and also Irissa, who, of course, in the previous episode, it ended with them doing the horizontal polka on the jailhouse floor, and LaSalle tries to kind of at least ask her out and all this kind of stuff, just to be a nice guy. He kind of figured maybe she does like him. And Irissa just kind of blows him off. Now, when I get into the next episode, I guess you're going to see a little bit more of why I have issues with Irissa. Now, maybe it's just because of the fact that she's an Arathian, and Arathians have a very tribal and aloof mentality. You see that more in the next episode. Irissa she oftentimes rubs me the wrong way. Because I think it's simply that how would I want to put this? I don't know, she just tends to be so standoffish and taciturn with people. And maybe that's just her nature. It's just that those kinds of people tend to irk me a little bit. So Irissa is not endearing herself to me, though she has shown herself to be a very capable and formidable person, and a very interesting character. To me, just not a very likable one. Now, of course, this whole deal is just centered around the history that Nolan has with Eddie, and how in the end Eddie, who does envy Nolan, ends up taking the fall for him when Nolan, realizes that the Earth Republic just wanted him for his weapons expertise, and we're talking about Paul Mattis, and Paul Mattis, he said, like, he even went as far enough to say that how did he put it? He said he didn't care about the money. He just likes to kill people. He just likes to kill people. So yeah, they're hiring on a really sick a sick, twisted individual for their own purposes. It just reminds me of how the Nazis ended up attracting some really sick individuals into their higher ranks. Himmler and Goebbels and Stryker and all these guys. There's some sick, twisted people. So, and then of course at the end, we said Nolan kills Mattis, and I really can't blame him, even though it kind of shocked me when he did that. I was like, I can't blame him. And Eddie, who was looking to get his big payday from turning him into the Earth Republic, turns on his friend. Is like, you didn't know they have a bounty out for you too. But in the end, he realized, because he took Irissa in, and he knew Irissa when she was very young. Through the episode, he reintroduced Irissa to Eddie, and was like, "You remember Uncle Eddie?" But Irissa couldn't remember, But then again, she was really young when it happened, most likely. So Eddie realized, okay, you have a daughter to take care of, so I'll take the fall for it. And they're sending him away to prison. And he had already done some time before, but this time you have him pull out this powder, and he asks the guards for some water and some salt tablets, and that this particular chemical, which is the same chemical that Paul Mattis used to make that bomb, only required salt water. So it implies that he escapes from that truck, and so most likely we're going to see him again. And I liked it because he was an interesting character, rough around the edges, just like Nolan, but without anything to hold him down like Irissa. So he's kind of like, I guess, a glimpse of what Nolan might used to be, or something like that. So it turned out to be a pretty interesting bit of character development in that department. And of course, with the Macaulays, let me see, Rafe Macaulay telling his son to destroy the book and the artifact that he found in that previous episode, because they go into the cave system in another episode and they see these glyphs that look just like the device that Quentin has. And of course, Quentin can't bring himself to destroy it. I mean, this is too much of a big mystery, and heck, even I wouldn't want to destroy it. This would be potentially valuable. Well, he learns how valuable exactly when the former governor's little attack dog goes into the house, tearing into the place, looking for that gold thing the gold thingamajig that he found, and egged on by this weird vision that he had of his dead brother, he ends up killing the guy. Now that kind of comes back to bite him in the behind in the next episode, which I'll be talking about in just a second. So this particular episode had some really good moments of character development. It wasn't as interesting as all the others because the previous episode really kind of brought things to something, made you really interested, made you really want to see what's going to happen next. And this one, I don't know, for some reason it felt something of a disappointment, except for that subplot involving the Macaulays. Everything else just sort of meandered a little bit. Oh, it introduced an element of Nolan's past, which was interesting enough, but it just seemed to stop with the whole deal between LaSalle and Irissa, and of course the whole deal with Paul Mattis. I wish that he would have survived. That would have made a very interesting villain. I mean, this guy, like I said, was a little sick monkey. He just killed people arbitrarily, and then had this one scene where what had happened? He was looking at it's for this box that he had with all his materials, and I think he had threatened the guy at gunpoint. I have to go back and look at the episode again, but at the end he already knocked him out or something, and then he walked away from the shop, took and just stole a scarf and put it around himself, and he was like, "Yeah, I look good in this thing." He's like, "Yeah, it's like a villain that'll kill you without a second thought and look good doing it." Yeah, that was just something else. Anyway, this episode to me earned. It was as far as this episode went, was fairly average. So I had to give this one probably a 5.5 out of 10. Not their best. Now the next episode is called Goodbye Blue Sky. It's episode 7. Let me go ahead and start on this one. Irissa has another vision in which she sees Sukar killed by an object falling from the sky. She and Nolan seek out the spirit riders to investigate. Her vision is confirmed, and they determine that the object was part of a storm of razor rain, small arcfall objects approaching Defiance. Nolan returns to warn the town while Irissa attends Sukar's sinking ritual, where his remains will be consumed in an acid bath. Sukar rises fully healed from the bath, throwing the spirit riders into confusion. He and Irissa return to Defiance, where he starts to collect numerous objects for an unknown purpose. Nikki arrives at the Macaulay's home looking for Birch. Birch is the guy who attacked Quentin. Not Quentin. Quentin. Excuse me. Quentin admits to Rafe that he killed Birch, but does not tell him that he kept the artifact. Nikki tricks Rafe into admitting he killed Birch, knowing that he would do so quickly to cover for a member of his family. Luke appears to Quentin and suggests that Quentin kill Nikki, but he refuses. Shtama attempts to hire Kenya to initiate Alak, that's their son, sexually before his marriage to Christy. Kenya politely refuses, and the two have a conversation over drinks that ends in a lesbian encounter. Alak and Christy have an argument over a proposed bathing ceremony in relation to the marriage. He agrees to approach his parents and cancel it. Sukar and Irissa take over the radio station and broadcast a message at a falling ark. Nolan attempts to stop him, shooting Sukar and throwing him from the gateway arch. Irissa broadcasts the message, enabling the arc engines, which changes the course of the falling object and saves Defiance. Sukar's miraculous healing is revealed to have been the result of nanites injected by the razor rain, which initially killed him. He survives the fall from the arch, but is comatose. Okay, this episode was throw everything into the stew pot and throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. At least it felt that way to me. Okay, so yeah, there's an event called Razor Rain, which is tiny pieces of the arc fall that just rain down on the Earth. It's potentially deadly. Staying indoors is usually the best way to protect yourself from it. So in this episode, you have a lot of people just kind of stuck indoors in a lot of intimate conversations. So it was relatively action light, except for a lot of CG sequences. Irissa starts off having a vision about Sukar. Sukar's the leader of the Erathian spirit riders, and this object hits him in the neck and supposedly kills him. So she stays behind with the Erathians, the spirit riders, to participate in a sinking ritual. It's a type of a burial in which they put the body in acid and take the rest of the belongings. And I guess it has a sort of spiritual significance for them, of course. But then suddenly, I mean, this part just kind of left my jaw on the floor. I mean, Sukar just popping up out of the acid, completely unharmed by it, and saying like, "It's like the gods have given me a vision." And then and he tells Irissa, you've been touched by the gods. You've been touched by the gods too. Come with me. And Irissa goes back to Defiance with Sukar, getting all this stuff, stealing all this stuff in the middle of Razor Rain. And the thing is, okay, the Erathians are supposed to be a very spiritual people. Okay, I get that. They have a very they have a sort of a primitive tribal religion, a tribal outlook on life, and and yet, okay, she's joining Sukar and getting all this stuff, and Sukar never once explains what he's trying to do. That would at least help. All he's like saying, you must have faith, child. And I'm like, would it have hurt him to explain it? It is like, he said, even I don't understand what I'm saying or what I must do, but he does it anyway. And they do explain at the end, and I'll get to that. I already read the whole deal. I'm going to have to explain this in a little bit more detail. So, that was an issue I had with this episode. Was that it left too much. It just made it. You say, okay, yeah, this happens just because it must happen. Another bit that I didn't like was in the exchange between the former mayor and Rafe McCauley and his son. Is that, yeah, okay, you already knew that she was a villainous scumbag, but in this episode, she just really didn't even try to hide it. And the thing is, she reminds me of I forget the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the one who etched that "I must not tell lies" thing into Harry Potter's hand. I actually meant to look up her name, but I cannot remember right off the top of my head. But she had that really sweet and kind outer exterior, but inside she was a snake. This is what this woman reminds me of. This is like, wow. Yeah, I'm not a villain at all. Murder, 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 murder. So they did a and okay, maybe you can say that the writers really didn't want to make her all that disguised. I mean, of course, you're showing in every episode these little liaisons between her and her little attack dog guy, Birch, and so that she's a bad guy. But I think that they should have come off. They should have made her, a little bit more subtle to the rest of the people, so that you can at least say that she does a good job at hiding it. No, this woman is just evil. She pretty much tricks Rafe into saying, "Yeah, I killed him, and because he broke into my house, and I'm going to protect my family." And then she's like, "Aha! I knew you'd say that because you'd never admit to killing a man unless you're covering for a member of your family." Now, fortunately, she didn't have any direct evidence to prove that that Quentin had killed that guy. But still, I just feel that they could have played this a little more subtle. This was just this episode was way too in your face about things. The whole conversation between and I'm sorry, I had said and I said Amanda in my review of the last episode for the one who's the head of the whorehouse. No, it's not Amanda. Amanda's the mayor. So please excuse me. I know some of y'all are probably like, it's Amanda's the mayor. I meant Kenya, not Amanda, and I'm sorry. Now, the whole deal between the conversations with Kenya and Shtama, and Kenya having to explain human mating customs to Castathan, yeah, it was kind of interesting. And, well, this episode does kind of show that Castathans do have a very liberal outlook to sexual behavior. I mean, they have no problems with group bathing, especially if it's in the family. And, yeah, their outlook on sexual behavior is very liberal. Because, I mean, she decides to partake of Kenya's services. Yet their relationship grows closer because of it. And that's how it felt to me. Now, I don't know. To me, that felt a little contrived, but then again, they really haven't done a lot to... Well, actually, no. Castathans are the one race that they've actually done a lot of explaining for when it comes to their cultures and their ways. The Castathans and, of course, the Arathians. And that's what I did like about this episode. It did give a little more insight into the cultural... ways and means of the Castathans and the Arathians. Now, I really wish they'd go and do some of the culture of the other races, like the Sensoth and the Liberata and the Indigenes. And I'm still waiting for the Gulani to show up. But I know that'll probably come in due time. So yeah, that's one thing I liked about the episode, was it gave a bit more of an in-depth look into the culture of a couple of these alien races, for better or for worse. Let me see. Oh, and they did have a little bit of a tiff between Alak, that's Daytak and Shtama's son, and Christy. And it was kind of cute, because Christy didn't want to bathe with his family, and well, of course, we being humans, yeah, that'd be kind of weird. And especially from a point of view of a teenage girl. Even though an adult would probably not have as much of a problem with it, understanding that, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Or at least you'd hope that they would respect your reticence to do that and understand that you mean no disrespect. Now, in some cultures, not participating in certain types of cultural things is considered an insult. And I'm hoping that to the Castathans, Christie's declining of that offer to join them in that bathing ritual is not going to be taken poorly. Daytak tends to have a short fuse, and it's kind of interesting. The last two episodes, well, no, in the previous episode they did have Daytak for a very brief moment. I want to go back to that, but I'll do that in a moment. Anyway. And I forgot to tell you about how the cool thing is they show Alak's job, and Alak broadcasts the Defiance radio, playing music and such, from the top of what used to be the Gateway Arch, and I thought that was really pretty cool. So this episode, though it had good moments of development in regards to the customs of alien races, because some things just felt so, I don't know, poorly thought out. This one, I'm sorry, was probably thus far the weakest episode of the series, and I have to give it a 4 out of 10. I think that the writers could have done better in the character department. And that's kind of unfortunate because, of course, in Defiance, we already know we have some very interesting characters. And I really like watching the show because of the character development and because of the interesting concepts and the races. Oh, and now going back to Daytak, just for that one moment. In the previous episode, in episode 6, there was this moment where Paul Mattis basically threatened Daytak and made him drive him out of town. And what happened was, during the time Paul Mattis was hiding out in Daytak's home, let me see, Eddie and Nolan went inside the house looking for him, and Daytak was acting all nice and kind to them, and And even and then at the end, you see him driving Paul Madison, and and Nolan come out from behind them and force them off the road, and they get Irissa and Irissa and LaSalle to take him back to take Daytac back to Defiance, and Daytac's like, it's like, how did you know? And it was like, you were being so nice, and even I knew that. I was just like, they're gonna figure something out. Daytac being way too nice. Daytac hates Nolan's guts, so there you go. I thought that was actually pretty cool. But anyway, and sorry I had to kind of backtrack for that. But like I said, the previous episode was just fairly average, but this one made me feel lacking, episode 7. But it wasn't terrible. Its saving grace was going into the cultural mores of the Cassithans and the Irathians. And I'm hoping to see more of that as the episodes progress. For the episode preview for the next episode, looks like something's going to be really interesting. So I'll be back talking about that, and I'm going to try to get this done on a weekly basis one more time. Sorry about the wait, and sorry I have to stick those 2 episodes in. So, that's it for me for our Defiance review, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. Comment, rate, subscribe down below in the comment section. As always, keep it civil. And once again, until next time, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. As always, stay lucky and stay blessed. Take care.